Hello and welcome back to the Love Machine podcast, the podcast that's here to supercharge your love life. In today's episode, we're going to be diving into the world of intimacy, self-expression, and breaking down the barriers that hold us back in love. If you've ever struggled to truly connect with somebody, or felt that you weren't showing up as your true, authentic self in a relationship, you're not alone. In fact, did you know that a staggering 70% of people admit to hiding parts of themselves from their partners early in relationships? To help us navigate these very tricky waters, I'm joined by the fantastic Katie Curtis, an extraordinary dating, intimacy and sex coach who's travelled the world learning the ins and outs of love and connection. Katie has a wealth of experience having managed a brothel and OnlyFans accounts, and she's got some really juicy insights and secrets to share about intimacy that you won't want to miss today. Get ready to uncover how embracing your true self can lead to deeper, more fulfilling relationships that you've always wanted. This is going to be a really eye-opening, uplifting, and maybe a little bit spicy podcast. So let's get started. Katie, how are you doing?
Hello, thank you for having me.
I am really pleased to have you today. We had a little chat before we did the podcast, and you've got such an interesting background and life. I had to get you on and talk to you. So tell me, what do you do? What's your story so far?
I've basically got into the sex industry. I've been working in the sex industry for a little while now, and it started out working with OnlyFans content creators. So the spicy side of life, as I like to call it. And so the girls or guys would contact me, and I run their social media accounts for them and their OnlyFans pages. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, I ended up working and managing in a brothel in Australia.
Wow.
Which I absolutely loved. It was the greatest experience, and I'm going to be going back out there in a few weeks to go back and manage it for a little bit longer.
Brilliant. You said you were working there. Were you working behind the scenes or in front of the scenes?
No. I was just behind the scenes managing the girls and the establishment. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And the same for OnlyFans. It wasn't your content, it was for other people.
No, it wasn't my content. I wish I had the guts to do it, but unfortunately no. But unfortunately not. But I just manage for the clients that I have. Yeah.
Excellent. So how did you get into managing an OnlyFans account?
It's actually quite a random story. While I was traveling, I was in Indonesia at the time, and I ended up matching with a girl on Hinge. Someone had recommended to me before I went traveling to use Hinge to meet people en route, and connect with different people. And I ended up matching with this girl who was an OnlyFans content creator. And so she was, talking about OnlyFans, and, she's like, oh, why don't you give it a go and see, it is a difficult market, but, and I was like, I completely respect what you do, but I just don't know if that's something that I could do, the photographs and the photography. I just don't know if that's something that I could manage and do myself. And she was like, well, why don't you manage it? And so I was like, what does that mean? What does that entail? And she said, well, I've got people that manage my accounts for me. And so that was it, really. And then she connected me with some people, and then it just kind of rolled on from there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny, years and years ago when I was single and dating, I dated someone. This is way back before OnlyFans, before we even had free access to pornography, really.
Yeah.
I said pornography. I've said it now. I've dropped it in. We have to mark that as adult-only content. Wonderful. But she was a porn star. I went on a couple of dates with this porn star, and she had her own website that was just about her, and it was content on her. Yeah. And she gave me a free password to go and look at it. And I remember that was like a precursor to.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff was very weird and wonderful, but very strange stuff on there. And OnlyFans has become so prolific now. It has become a household name and phrase, isn't it? From where it is.
It's huge. And I met so many content creators when I was traveling. So many content creators. I think, from the experience that I've had and the people that I've connected with and worked with, a lot of them started kind of just before COVID. Some of them started during COVID when they were at home, unable to go into work, and just started it as kind of like a little side hustle. And then it just kind of took over. Yeah.
Amazing. It's funny because I've now become a content creator, but not in that sort of way, just on TikTok. Anyone's listening to TikTok, Katie was giving me some tips on how to grow my TikTok account, which I've now got. James Preece coach, lots of dating tips and advice on there. And also you managed a brothel. How did you get to start to run a brothel?
Yeah, so that was also quite interesting. I ended up meeting another girl while I was traveling who was a porn star.
Right.
and also a sex worker. And she was saying to me how sex work was legal in Australia and they had brothels. And because unfortunately here in the UK, we don't have brothels, which I think is really sad because if anything, it actually protects it and makes it a lot safer for the girls.
Right.
But in Australia, they do. In certain regions, it is legal. And so I did a little bit of Googling and made a list of lots of brothels in the area that I was going to, and I just approached them, and then it just went from there, really. So, and I work in one in Melbourne in Australia.
Amazing.
Mm.
It's a good job I haven't been Googling brothels in Australia. I think my wife would check my search and find out what's been going on there. That'd be interesting.
It was definitely an experience. I mean, I had been I've been in strip clubs and things like that before.
Yeah.
And I had been in a brothel once before. With it was in Spain and it was with some friends. The night had ended and we didn't want to, we didn't want the night to finish. So we ended up turning up to this brothel where we could, continue to drink and party and things like that. So
Yeah.
but completely different experience to what I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
We'll come on to that because I want to talk
Yeah.
about intimacy in a second. But another
Yeah.
little thought came into my mind when you were saying that about strip clubs. My only memory of a strip club, two memories. One was my brother's stag do. That's another story
Okay.
altogether. A friend took me to one years and years ago in Edinburgh, and they were
Right.
legal there at the time. I'm not sure if they still are. And it was an afternoon. It wasn't particularly busy. I went in there, paid my £3 to get in,
Oh my
and
goodness, that's really cheap.
and it was this is quite a long time ago. I have to admit. I went in there, and then suddenly the dancer's on stage, and she's getting naked on the stage. This is
Yeah.
great. Everyone's around, and then suddenly people started fighting in the crowd around me,
Oh,
and they were fighting, kicking off, and then the bouncer threw everybody except my friend and I out of the venue. And we were left just having a conversation with this naked dancer. And bear in mind, I was quite young at the time. This is
yeah.
amazing. And I said, look, I paid my £3. There's nothing going on. And he gave us all free drinks. So we had free
Oh
drinks
my
talking to a
goodness.
naked
What a
dancer.
night.
But then a shoe came through the window because someone had thrown their shoe in. They were so angry at being thrown out. And that came crashing through. That was the end of that. But I've got a very fond memory of that.
Oh,
Back in my time. But not a very nice place to work for these poor ladies, I would say. Back
it
in.
depends on where you go and how they're managed. I mean, there's a lot. I've been to strip clubs in Australia as well, and it's very empowering. The girls are extremely talented at what they do.
Yeah.
Because there is an art form to it. They are very creative in their dance and the way they hold themselves.
Mm.
And it's great because you see women of all different shapes and sizes as well, which I think is fantastic.
Uh-huh.
So it is differently unusual. I think they're still around. I think there are ones in London still that you can go to. I don't know how they work in London in terms of nudity wise. In Australia, it's all nudity.
Hmm.
So I don't know how they manage that in the UK. I'm not sure if that's a thing. Not
I
sure.
think it is. There are still
Yeah,
places you can go to. Apparently,
yeah,
I went to one many years ago. I haven't been to any
yeah,
the last 20 years. This is how old I am now. I don't need to go there. I'm happily married, of course.
yeah,
But yeah, I think it's good. It just provides a lot of work for people, and they can go there.
yeah,
Back in the time, but this comes on to something I want to talk about
yeah,
vulnerability. Actually, you
yeah,
mentioned all different body types. People
yes,
listening to today, and I mentioned people often with a new partner, they will cover themselves up. 70% of
yeah,
people, men and women, are a bit
yeah,
embarrassed about their body and their body image, and when they get intimate with somebody,
yes.
they are embarrassed about it. So, what tips do you have for somebody who wants to be more vulnerable when it comes to intimacy?
I think it starts from within. I think you definitely have to have an inner confidence of your body, and you have to also understand that no one is perfect, and your partner has chosen to be with you because they want to be with you. They're attracted to you. And so I would definitely work on your confidence, whether it's kind of, maybe you want to make changes and go to the gym and train a little bit more, or maybe even you want to go out and splurge on some sexy underwear. There's a variety of different things that you can do, different things that I coach with, where I speak to people and we connect and we learn, where it stems from and what we can do to change that. Um, but I think taking the pressure off yourself and actually just being kinder to yourself is definitely the first step.
Hmm.
I think social media nowadays depicts this perfect woman, and obviously you've got these Instagrammers and you've got these OnlyFans girls and things like that. But there's also a completely different side to OnlyFans where the girls are not this typical OnlyFans look, shall we say. There is a massive market for a variety of different women, shapes, sizes, ages. There's different, there's men working on OnlyFans, there's transgender the community on OnlyFans. So yeah, I think definitely being kinder to yourself is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, Absolutely agree. I think we all have something unique to offer in our own different
Yeah,
ways. And
yeah,
you're right, OnlyFans is full of all different characters on there, all different types.
yeah,
And there are people in their 70s on there sometimes. And
yeah.
not that I've seen them, but I've heard. I have part of my job, I have to hear. I haven't been checking them out.
No judgment here, James. No judgment.
No, I haven't to do that. But yeah, everyone wants different things in life, particularly when it comes to
100%.
dating. And I think when it comes to also getting naked for the first time, then everyone's a bit self-conscious to start with. It's
Yeah.
a normal reaction. It's the excitement as well, isn't it, about
It's
that?
excitement, you're in a very vulnerable situation, aren't you?
You are,
And
yeah,
especially when it's someone that you like, you want it to go well, you want them to have a good experience. You want to, it's meant to be a special, intimate moment. So you're
yeah,
putting yourself in a vulnerable situation. But at the end of the day, I think the only person who's judging you is yourself in those situations because that when you're with that partner, they want to be with you. They're choosing to be with you because they love and care about you. So I think we just need to be kinder to ourselves.
yeah. I say that all the time. It's so important.
Mm.
Let's talk about that a bit more. Let's talk about embracing your true self and who you
Yeah,
really are, because that's the foundation of
yeah,
any relationship, isn't it?
yeah,
People do struggle with this all the time, and it's an
yeah.
important topic on the podcast quite often, but it's something that people seem to struggle with all the time. So, what advice do you have for people on that and being true to who you really are?
Being true to who you really are. It's a really good question. And I think it differs depending on who you are, where you come from. Everyone's comes from different walks of life and they have different life experiences.
Mm,
I think dating nowadays is definitely, I don't want to say harder, but I think it's definitely more cutthroat. A lot of people come to me and they've had really bad experiences, which have had a massive impact on them going forward in future relationships.
mm,
And so I definitely think that if you're someone who, has an awareness that there is issues, from past experiences, that you go and speak to somebody about those and open yourself up. Um, because there's no shame in going and speaking to somebody. There's
yeah,
no shame in getting help. I think sometimes people just assume that dating should come naturally to people, or you should be able to go out and socialize, when actually that's not the case. And I think especially nowadays with technology, we've moved further away from being able to just rock up at a pub and go over and speak to somebody. People don't really do that anymore,
no,
and so yeah, I think be definitely kind of working on yourself is, you should be your main priority.
hmm
And sometimes when I say it to my clients, they say, "Oh, but that seems quite selfish." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you're the only one that's going to look after you. It's no one else's responsibility to look after you." So, see yourself as an investment, nurture yourself, put good things in your body, be kind to yourself because no one else is going to do that except for you. And if you value yourself enough to do that, then other people will value you too.
very, very true. But it's much
Yeah.
more attractive, isn't it, if you
Much more,
value
yeah,
yourself?
much more attractive. I think
Yeah,
people who have confidence tend to be more attractive, isn't there?
yeah,
It's not even like something that's spoken about. It's just a presence about them almost.
yeah, yeah. I'm very much used to that, but
Yeah.
don't know why I said that. Cheeky confidence. That's probably what I've got.
It's true
Cheek.
though. It's nice. It's when you meet someone who's confident to come
Yeah,
over and strike up a conversation.
yeah.
Um, it is attractive.
It is. I think people
Yeah.
should be more confident. Because what is the
Yeah.
worst that's going to happen if you talk to
Exactly.
someone? They're going to say no.
Exactly. In worst case scenario, you've got a really good story out of it. That's why I say,
Yeah,
if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. You're not gonna be everyone's cup of tea and vice versa.
yeah,
I also think there's a lot of stigma around women approaching men. I feel like a lot of women, well, especially clients that I have this kind of idea that women shouldn't approach men. It should be up to men to approach women, which
yeah.
I completely disagree with because I think
Yeah.
men also find that confidence attractive as well.
Mhm.
And why shouldn't you go over and speak to me if you're interested?
I agree. I think if you
Yeah,
don't do that, then you're left with the leftovers that no one
yeah,
else really wants. It's true with online dating as well. If you don't reach out to people you're
yeah,
interested in, somebody else will.
yeah,
And you're missing out on opportunities. And what you're doing is saying hello or asking a question or paying a
yeah,
compliment. It's
yeah.
not bad. So, what advice would you give to a woman then to approach a man? In three different places, we're going to give you to make this
Okay,
a really long question that I love
yeah,
to ask. First of all, in an online dating situation or dating app situation, how would you to get someone's profile and then start a conversation?
yeah.
And then we'll go through them one at a time. Otherwise, I'll
Okay, so
overwhelm you. Yeah,
yeah, with the online dating, I suppose it depends on what platform you're using. I really do quite like Hinge because of the use of the prompts.
yeah,
And I think those are really good conversation starters. So I think as much as I do like online dating, I do think there are the pros and cons to online dating, and I think sometimes we fixate so much on photos.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, obviously there has to be some level of, sexual connection and, you want to be attracted to that person. But I do also find that sometimes that's our main focus. Whereas actually sometimes if you read those prompts that Hinge have put on, if the guy has answered them, sometimes some of the answers are a little bit, but if they do, then
Yeah.
that's a really good conversation starter.
Hmm.
If they, talk about a particular movie that they like or an event that they've been to, and that's something that you have in common with them, comment on that, and say, oh, actually, yeah, I was at that event a couple of years ago. I really enjoyed this, and this. What did you think? So if there's that common ground, then use that to your advantage.
Absolutely. You're right. Men just write absolute junk in their profile that is completely
Some of them are
pointless.
just, I mean, some of them are actually quite funny, but I don't know whether they're actually intended to be funny or not.
I know. I see them all the time. Utterly bizarre, and the
Yeah,
nonsense people write, and they even
yeah,
just writing the same generic things everyone else writes doesn't make you stand out.
yeah.
That's terrible.
The
Okay.
classic, I'm using Hinge until I find somebody or help me get off Hinge and things like that.
Yeah.
No,
Or
no,
we'll
no.
say we met in the pub. That's people write that in there.
Yeah,
Like, the
yeah,
taboo's long gone. Don't write
yeah.
rubbish like that. It
No,
doesn't count.
no.
I
And
see the
but
same.
also a piece of, sorry, going back to your question as well is, I think as well, my only other piece of advice, which I always tell my clients is, if you've matched with someone on one of the dating profiles and you start talking, we don't spend days and weeks talking.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you're invested a lot of time into effort to somebody that you might not get on with in real life. There might not be that compatibility. But if you
Mhm.
connect with somebody and you find that common ground, swap numbers, make plans to meet, connect in person. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, so many of my clients be like, oh, we were messaging on Instagram for about 3 weeks and then it just kind of fizzled out. You're not going to have anything to talk about. You don't need to know how someone's day is when you just matched with them or, what their plans are for the weekend. The only thing you need to know is, I'm free this day at this time. Should we meet for a coffee or should we go for a drink so yeah,
No, I agree. So many conversations fizzle out if you keep doing
so
that,
many. Yeah.
and it's pointless. Yeah, go on with it because the intrigue is there and they're interested in you.
Yes.
That's the most powerful
Yeah.
time. Is I've
Yeah.
got a match. Who are they? Great.
Yeah.
Build up a little bit of trust and then meet them.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
delay it because
Don't.
what's going to happen? Someone else will come in there and sweep them off their feet
Yeah.
before you even have a chance to do that.
Yeah.
Next scenario: how a woman would approach a guy. A coffee shop. You mentioned coffee a few times. You're sitting down
Yeah.
in a coffee shop. You see a hot guy in the corner with his latte and his muffin.
Yeah.
Give you little clues there. How would you start a conversation?
Oh, that's a good one. So I mean, I would potentially walk over and make a comment about, I mean, you don't have to be, you could just lie and say, oh, I had that muffin last week and it was really nice, and just take it from there. It doesn't have to be anything, or you could compliment them, if they look particularly
Yeah.
smart, they are, you look really nice today. I really like what you're wearing. It looks really smart. I think sometimes we're a little bit afraid to give compliments as women.
Hmm.
Um, but actually guys do really like a compliment.
Guys don't get many compliments in life,
And
you
they
know.
don't. And they really don't.
They don't.
No.
When I get compliments, it's a really big thing. It's nice. It's
Yeah.
important. And I
It's
think
really nice. Really nice. Yeah.
it is good. It's good to have that. But yeah, to pay a guy a compliment. That's a really nice
100%.
tie.
Really nice. Yeah.
Those glasses really suit you.
Yeah.
It's going to let you know, and then you carry on walking. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And
Yeah.
if you're nervous about it, start paying people compliments, and then just walking
Yeah.
off, and then
Yeah.
you'll become more confident doing it, and
And do
that
it.
could be a good
100%.
skill
Yeah.
overall. Okay, last scenario:
Yeah.
a gym. Gyms are really difficult.
Oh. Now, as an avid gym goer myself, gyms are like a no-go space for me personally.
Mm,
Only because I don't appreciate being approached in a gym as a woman. I don't think guys ever kind of do it properly. And I think when I go in there, I've got my headphones on, I'm on a mission. So I think
yeah,
unless it's someone that you catch when you're in the lobby, or you're coming out of the changing room and you're in that space where you're not in the gym environment, then by all means be like, oh, I saw you upstairs training earlier on. What you're doing looked really good. I've seen you around. I've really
yeah.
noticed a change, kind of thing. Pay a compliment. But just don't do it on the gym floor when someone's middle of a set, and they're all sweaty and just don't,
Yeah.
it's not the time to do it. Yeah.
I agree with you. I would add to this as well that if you're
Yeah,
a regular gym goer, you're going to
yeah,
see that person a lot because you're probably going to
exactly.
cross paths. People tend to go the same day of the
Yeah,
week and times of the week. So don't be too intense. Start
no,
and build up slow. Just
yeah,
become someone that you say good morning to, and then
100%. Yeah,
that's it. And then you get to say good morning to them. And how was your day? Don't how was
yeah,
that? How was your day? But you can just build up a
yeah, yeah,
conversation
yeah,
before, and then you build up to it. If
yeah.
you go into it, I think you're really nice. Want to go for a drink? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm married. Then that's really embarrassing, and you have to
Yeah,
change
no,
your timetable, won't you?
yes, yeah, you
Overall.
will have to. But I think as well, when you go to the gym, especially if you're someone who's going regularly and they're also going regularly, you will see them over a period of time, And so, it might start off with smiling and then it might say hi and goodbye and things like that.
Yeah.
I just don't, I say to my clients, just don't approach someone because I think guys in particular feel the need to go over and speak to girls when they're in that gym environment. And I'm always like, absolutely, by all means, the gym is a great place to meet people because you're going to meet people that are like-minded to you.
Yeah.
But just don't go over and approach her when she's got her headphones on and she's in the middle of exercising and she's doing something like squats. Pick your moment.
Yeah, you don't want to interrupt someone doing that because
No,
headphones are a barrier and they're there on
they
purpose.
are a barrier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're there to protect them from people
Yeah.
talking to them. I have mine on
Exactly.
in the gym, not just for that
Yeah.
reason, but just to focus.
Yeah.
And I have a podcast playing or music playing to get me
Yeah.
excited on the treadmill. That's
Yeah.
important. But I think there can be good places.
Yeah.
And something I would add to this as well, just my little thoughts about meeting people in the
Yeah.
gym. I haven't really shared this before. If you're going to want to meet someone in the gym, then go maybe 9 o'clock at a weekend because two reasons.
Okay.
First of all, they probably haven't got a partner that they spent the night with because why would they be going to the gym at that time? And
Yeah.
secondly, they're obviously not going with a hangover. They're quite clean eating, clean living.
Ah, that's a
Yeah,
good point. Yeah.
yeah, go and do that because they're going to be people that are like-minded to you and more likely to
Yeah.
be open to this. And if the conversation does go well, then you can go for coffee or breakfast after. That's really if you're going
That
to
is
be
a
good at
nice,
that.
yeah,
It
nice
is
little touch. Like we can
nice
go
little
from
touch.
here. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
It's funny because I mentioned TikTok earlier, and I was
Yeah.
watching some videos earlier to learning what people do. So I seen this guy, he's going around into these coffee shops and bars to starting conversations, saying weird and wonderful things. I just don't believe it's that easy to do that nowadays because people have got their guard up so much. If some random person comes up,
Yeah.
but he must be filming this. So is there a camera crew with him at the time just recording this? I don't know. I don't think you should be approaching people in that way. And it used to be gangs of people go around and they go to approach all these women and say, "Can I ask you a question?" I think it's interesting, but
Yeah.
there should be the other way around. There should be a channel where women approach men, and that would be
Yes.
a really good thing. There you are. There's an idea for you.
Yeah, no,
There's,
I do think that there is a little bit of stigma around women approaching men, and I hear girls often say, "Well, I don't want to go over and speak to them. They should come over and speak to me."
yeah.
But I don't agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with going over and speaking to the opposite sex and striking up a conversation.
No, there's not at all. And
Yeah,
I mean, the world needs more of that. Some
yeah,
conversations. Just asking someone how they are and just
yeah.
checking in with them. Why not? Because we're not going to get
100%.
anywhere and progress and increase our social circle.
No,
Because this ties on to something else, loneliness. People
yeah,
are generally quite lonely in life now, particularly since the pandemic. And we aren't used to having these conversations. So I
no,
think just going doing it in a nice, safe, polite way is a really good thing.
yeah,
But intimacy has so many meanings as well.
yeah.
And something else I want to talk about is intimacy and conversation. That's when you are starting to get to know somebody and you want to share your secrets or you want to tell them how you're feeling. It's a wide topic, but do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's really important when you are serious about someone to show them that vulnerable side, and it's getting the timing right of when you do open up and show that you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think showing it too early might, scare someone because they're not ready for it. And then maybe, not open up until later on down the line could be too late. And someone could be like, well, actually, I've been waiting for this for quite a while now, and it's too late. So it is getting that timing right. I think showing that you're vulnerable, especially when it comes, I mean, I think as women, we're generally so much more emotional and
Mm.
we're quite happy to talk about our emotions and things like that. But I think coming from the male aspect and men showing that they can be vulnerable, I
Yeah.
actually think it's really important for women to see.
Hmm. Okay.
I think working at the brothel, I mean, we see a variety of different men, and a lot of men are lonely and struggle to communicate or don't feel that they're given the chance to be vulnerable, because
Yeah.
of judgment. Yeah,
That's so true.
yeah.
Did you ever see any of the clientele, actually dating any of the people in the brothel? Did that ever
No,
happen?
no, the girls were all very professional. It's a
Okay.
transaction. There is no dating.
Yeah.
We had a lot of clients that would come and see the same girl. They might have been seeing them for years, but no one that dated. No.
Right. No, interesting.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think it's young guys' dream, isn't it? They're going to fall in love with somebody and have the best sex of their lives with somebody for free. But I don't think that's the reality, unless you are a multi-millionaire and you're paying your way into
Yeah.
this, because it is
Yeah.
transactional. It
It is
is.
very, very transactional. It's a business. The
Yeah.
girls look at it as a business, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever you're coming in and paying for, it's a service. The girls are providing that service, and then at the end of that service, you go home, and that is where the relationship finishes.
Yeah. Everyone's got their own opinion on what they want and their own views on everything, but there is a lot of societal norms, aren't they? And
Yeah,
people are becoming more unconventional, and people are living the lives they want to be more authentically, and being
yeah,
free to go and maybe date 10 people at once, or people of the opposite sex, more be
yeah,
more bisexual,
yeah,
or
yeah.
polyamorous. This is happening more and more. How can somebody, this is all tying into intimacy still,
Yeah.
how can someone be live their own life that way without fear of being judged?
It's really difficult. I think one of the key points is being very open about it. I think if you keep
Mm,
it secret, you're making it seem something taboo, you're making it seem something that's wrong,
yeah,
which it isn't. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think as long as all parties are involved are aware of what's happening and
yeah,
consent to what's happening, then there's
mm,
nothing wrong with it. I
right,
think, it's, because we have gentlemen that come and visit the club to see the girls who are married,
mhm,
and some of them have had conversations with their wives where they've got to a point in their relationship, the wife doesn't want to have sex anymore, but the partner still does, and so they've had a conversation, they've put in some boundaries. For example, one guy, he can come and see the girls, but he can't see the same girl more than once.
that's the rule.
That's the
Yeah,
rule. So
okay,
his wife said, I'm happy for you to go. That's not a problem, but you just can't see the same girl more than once. I think it's
yeah,
more of a way of protecting any potential bond between that they might create.
yeah,
But I think when you have these polyamorous relationships or people are experimenting with threesomes or, your sexuality, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think if you're open and honest about it with all parties involved and to yourself as well,
yeah.
then it takes that stigma and that taboo away from it and it makes it normal.
It does, and I think it is normal now.
It
It
is,
always
yeah.
has been, but I think it's much more relaxed and people can live their
Yeah.
own ways. You've only got one life. You've got to live it as authentically and much fun as you can. But you're right, you've got to be true to everyone that's around you as well
Yeah.
and be honest and set your boundaries, explain your
100%.
expectations and have that conversation. And that's a very
Yeah.
intimate conversation to have,
It is
particularly
very
if you've got,
intimate, yeah.
particularly if you've got an existing partner and
Yeah.
you're not sure how they're going to feel because they might say no, they might not be interested in things you want to try. But I think intimacy is something that it continues always. I mean, it always
Yeah.
expands, and you can never be too intimate with somebody
Yeah.
because you're always growing
No. And
together.
I think as well, like I think there is fear, like you said, there is fear around, am I going to be judged if I tell my partner about, I do a lot of work around kink and fetish.
Hmm.
And a lot of people will come to me with like a particular kink or a fetish that they want to explore, but they're not too sure how to talk about it with their partner.
Yeah,
And I say to them a lot of the time that most people will have the same kink and fetish. And that when you're in a relationship with someone, especially if you've been with someone for a certain period of time, if you have a solid foundation of a relationship where you can communicate really well, there's a honesty, there's respect there, talking to your partner, that actually might make you even stronger. It might not even be that they actually want to explore that with you, but you actually being vulnerable enough to actually talk about it will make the relationship stronger. And I always say go in with no expectations. So, share this information with them. Make sure that you tell them, I have no expectations of you, but
yeah,
I want to share this with you,
mm,
and let them go away and think about it. And they might come back and be like, well, actually, I thought about this and it's actually not for me, but I appreciate that you shared it, and it's okay that some things stay a fantasy. Not everything has to be made into reality.
yeah. Sometimes fantasy is better, isn't it?
It is,
it's
yeah. And I do say that to people. I said sometimes, you might have this idea of what you want, but actually the reality of it might not be the same.
Yeah, it really is. I think because the expectation is like Christmas. Christmas is an amazing day. You get all the presents, but it's the anticipation
Yeah,
is often even holidays. You can
yeah,
anticipation to holiday. The holiday can be
yeah,
amazing. It's never going to be as good as the one you built up in
yeah,
your head to start with. But that's
Yeah.
a conversation there about living in the moment, I think, a bit more. Maybe I need to do that more. Enjoy every moment you've got, which is my own advice. But I'm booking a lot of holidays for next year. That's what I'm working on.
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah, I'm
nice. Yeah,
trying to
no,
do
I
that.
do. I think I mean, listen, if you're with a partner who is very open and is willing to explore those things, there's nothing wrong with that,
Oh, no, of course not.
but as long as you check in and you have, discussions prior of what your boundaries are, and you make sure that both of you are consenting and you both agree that this is how it's going to go, then there's nothing wrong with exploring that either.
Not at all. And that's what intimacy is, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
being true and being committed to your partner and having
yeah,
discussions.
yeah.
There are people out there that are new to dating and they're starting out again and they're not having great success. What tips would you give them to go and meet someone new now?
So I would say to yourself, if you're someone who's just coming back into dating, don't shut yourself off from different options. So go out there and try different things. You know, try the online stuff, try speed dating. You might find that one really works for you and one doesn't.
Yeah.
Try going up to a stranger and giving a compliment, and in that time, while you are dating, focus time on yourself. Spend some time getting to know yourself and your body and what you like and what you don't like. Because I think sometimes when dating, it can sometimes become all consuming, doesn't it? Everyone's on every app and everyone's going to every event, and limit yourself. Don't let it rule you. That's what I would say. Because I think sometimes it does tend to spill into people's lives, and they're like, well, I met this guy on this app and I'm going to go out with this guy from this app, and so yeah, don't let it rule you and have fun with it, because that's what dating is. Dating is meant to be fun.
It is. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong. Don't. Go out and have a good time. And the other thing I say to my clients is go in with no expectations.
Hmm.
I think sometimes going in with all these expectations, you're putting so much pressure on something that you're just making it harder for yourself. Go in with zero expectations. You might go on a day and actually the chemistry might not be there, but you might come away with a really good friend.
Exactly. And it's about making these connections and giving yourself
Yeah,
more opportunities. And
yeah,
yeah, you have to start somewhere. If you don't
yeah.
start, you're never going to meet somebody.
Yeah.
So great advice there. Okay. Thank you, Katie.
You're
Now,
welcome.
I ask everyone this question as we come towards the end of the podcast, and
Okay.
that is, do you have any daily habits and routines that you try and stick to?
Yes, so I actually started this at the beginning of the year. So I've always been an avid journaler. I like to journal. But at the beginning of the year, I started where I would write a quote followed by three intentions. So I set three things for the day that I want to achieve,
Huh?
and then eight things that I am grateful for.
Amazing.
So I write those out every morning without fail. And then at the end of the night, I don't write it, but when I'm in bed before I go to sleep, I will say three things that I'm grateful for that happened that day. But
Brilliant.
three positive things that happened. Yeah.
So you set your intentions and then you appreciate those
Yeah.
intentions. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Very, very good steps and very valid. I sort of do these things myself and I have the
Yeah.
grateful things and I do that sometimes. I can just walk along the road and I think of loads of things I'm grateful for. It
Yeah.
can really boost that. But great. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. We've
You're
come
most
towards the
welcome.
end of the podcast already. So that flew by.
Great. Yeah.
I know we'll talk again, hopefully. But if anyone
Yeah.
wants to find out more about you
Yep.
and what you do, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. So I'll send you obviously all my details over, but they can contact me on Instagram at Talk to Katie. And I also have a website which is www.talktokatie.co.uk. And they can reach out to me on there for coaching as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really
You're
appreciate
most
it.
welcome. Thank you so much
Have,
for having me. I've had such a great time.
so have I. Have a great day. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.